Have you ever felt a profound sense of loneliness, a feeling that no one truly understands you? For one woman living on the edge of a vast, ancient forest, this feeling was a daily reality. But an unexpected encounter would change her life forever, blurring the lines between myth and reality and revealing a kindness she never thought possible. This is the incredible story of a lonely woman who fed a Sasquatch. Our story begins with Susan, a woman in her late 50s who had recently moved to a secluded cabin in the dense woods of the Pacific Northwest. After the passing of her husband, she sought solitude, hoping the quiet embrace of nature would heal her grieving heart. But solitude soon turned to loneliness. The days were long, the nights even longer, and the silence was often deafening. Her only companions were the birds that visited her feeder and the deer that occasionally grazed in her yard. She often spoke to them, her voice a soft murmur against the rustling leaves, just to hear another sound besides her own thoughts. One crisp autumn evening, as twilight painted the sky in shades of purple and orange, Susan noticed something unusual. The birds had fallen silent, and an eerie stillness had settled over the woods. From her kitchen window, she saw a massive, shadowy figure moving at the edge of her property, just beyond the tree line. It was tall, much taller than any person, and covered in dark, matted hair. It moved with a slow, deliberate gait, its sheer size both terrifying and awe-inspiring. Her heart pounded in her chest. She had heard the local legends, the whispers of a creature known as Sasquatch or Bigfoot, but she had always dismissed them as folklore. Now, standing frozen in her kitchen, she wasn't so sure. Instead of calling for help or barricading her doors, an instinct she couldn't explain took over. She saw not a monster, but a solitary being, much like herself. It looked lost, maybe even hungry. That night, she left a small bowl of leftover stew and some bread on the large tree stump at the edge of her yard, a place she often left scraps for the raccoons. She retreated to her house, her hands trembling slightly, and watched from the window. After what felt like an eternity, the large figure emerged from the shadows. It approached the stump cautiously, its head turning from side to side, scanning the area. It then picked up the bowl, sniffed it, and in a few surprisingly gentle movements, consumed the contents. Then, as quietly as it had appeared, it vanished back into the forest. This became their silent ritual. Every evening, Susan would leave out a meal. Sometimes it was soup, other times roasted vegetables or fresh-baked bread. And every night, the creature would come. She started calling him the Old Man of the Woods. She never tried to get closer, respecting his wild nature and the invisible boundary between their worlds. She would simply watch from her window, a quiet sense of companionship warming her heart. The crushing loneliness that had consumed her began to lift, replaced by a sense of purpose and a secret joy. She had a friend, albeit an unconventional one. One afternoon, while tending to her small garden, Susan slipped on a patch of wet moss and fell hard, twisting her ankle. A sharp, searing pain shot up her leg. She cried out, realizing she couldn't stand. Her phone was inside, and her nearest neighbor was miles away. Panic began to set in as the sun started to dip below the horizon. The woods, which had become her sanctuary, now felt menacing. As tears of pain and fear streamed down her face, she heard a sound nearby, a low, guttural grunt. She looked up, and there he was. The old man of the woods stood just a few yards away, his dark eyes fixed on her. Fear warred with a strange sense of calm. He took a hesitant step closer, then another. He was enormous, towering over her as she lay on the ground. He let out another soft sound, a sound that seemed less like a threat and more like concern. He looked at her injured ankle, then back at her face. He then turned and disappeared into the trees. Susan thought he had left her, and despair washed over her. But a few minutes later, he returned. In his massive hand, he held a bundle of large, waxy leaves. He dropped them gently beside her. Susan recognized them as comfrey leaves, a plant known in herbal medicine for its healing properties, often called nitboon. How could he possibly know this? Gathering her courage, she spoke to him. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice hoarse. The creature just watched her, his expression unreadable but seemingly calm. Slowly, painfully, Susan used a nearby branch to pull herself up. The creature didn't move, just stood there as if keeping watch. She managed to hobble back to her cabin, leaning heavily on the walls. When she finally made it inside and looked back, he was gone. Over the next few days, Susan nursed her ankle, using the comfrey leaves to make a poultice, just as her grandmother had taught her years ago. She continued to leave food out, and each night, the old man of the woods would come. But something had changed. There was a new level of trust, a deeper understanding that transcended words. He had not just taken her offerings, he had offered something back. He had shown her kindness. Susan's life was no longer defined by loneliness. It was filled with a quiet wonder and a secret friendship that nourished her soul more than any human interaction had in years. She had found a connection in the most unlikely of places with a creature most people believed to be a myth. Her story isn't one of a monster in the woods, but of two solitary beings finding comfort in each other's existence. It teaches us that kindness is a universal language, and that sometimes the most profound connections are found where we least expect them, in the silent, watchful spaces between our world and another. What do you think? Could a creature like Sasquatch be capable of such intelligence and empathy, or was it simply a series of coincidences? Maybe the truth is that we know very little about the deep, untamed corners of our world and the beings that may inhabit them. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this story, be sure to subscribe for more tales of the unexplained.